Hey everybody, welcome to the Catch Up After College podcast, catching up after college on the lessons of life lived by leaders. We're a safe space grounded in grace, and our aim's always to aid, maybe post-graduation, but we're never post-education. I'm Isaiah Brown, your host. Thank you for tuning in today. Season 3, Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things. And today we have a guy who's so nice, it's become his nickname. It's nice guy Stephen Langford here with us today. What's happening?
Yeah. Man, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I like the idea of it. I like the thought of just actually having someone to look to. Like I could have used this is basically what I'm saying when I was younger. I definitely could have used this. So I'm just happy to join you, man. I'm honored that you invited me on.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you said that. I just saw empty space and I'm like, hey, I'll do it. I will take that on.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
First of all, I got asked the nickname Nice Guy Steven. Is that a lot to live up to, or like you feel like changing it, or because you have to be nice all the time?
Well, see, now I'm called Nice Guy. I'm not even going to repeat what some people call me on a certain day. But and we'll talk about this like a little more as the podcast goes on. But really, the reason I was called Nice Guy Steven is because when I first started. And I know we'll get to the intros and everything and kind of what I'm doing. I don't really want to get too forward here. But when I first started at my job at 95.7, I was working 2 days a week or whatever, doing all of that. And any shift that that someone would ask me to pick up, I'd automatically take it like right away. I'd say, yeah, of course. And then the people working there, whenever I take their shift, they'd be like, damn, that's a nice guy. And then I ended up just being called Nice Guy Steven, and it stuck with the host. And I guess it sort of makes sense. People, whenever I meet people who know the show and know the station, they say, yeah, you look like a nice guy. I'm like, well, it was just because I needed money and accepted shifts.
There you go.
It's not necessarily because of the personality.
Yeah. Okay. Dang. I didn't know I guess there was an origin story. I just never knew it until now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd like to think I'm a nice person. I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. But I think we're around the same age. What year were you born? Is it 93 or
93? Yeah, 93.
Okay, 90s baby. That's cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just assuming you're watching some great cartoons growing up as a kid.
Of course, dude. I've been, I thought about this in the past, but like growing up in 1993. You really got like a taste of everything. Yeah. Because I'm being, whenever it's like, remember, son, when you probably won't know what VHS tapes are. And I'm like,
I hate it when people say.
I'm like, I do. Yeah. I do know what VHS is. Like, you probably don't know what a CD player is. It's like, no, I do.
Or cassette tape.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I know what that stuff is. It's like, and then as time goes on, then like the internet starts to get popular. You're around for the first time at YouTube. You really like if you're born in the early 90s. I saw someone on Twitter. Someone posted this. It was like if you're born between I think like 85 and 95, then you've like seen an entire shift in everything. So yeah, it's just like I can't stand it though when it's like, oh, you're too young for that. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that. It's like, I kind of am. Am.
So you've seen like CDs, you've seen MySpace, you've seen Facebook, been through it all.
the start of YouTube and all of that sort of stuff, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to ask you this question. So let's imagine like you're 10 again and you're waking up on Saturday morning. What would be your dream top 5 cartoon lineup that you would watch?
Oh my gosh. Top 5 cartoon lineup. Number 1, Rocket Power. Easy.
Nice.
Yeah. Big fan of Otto. Big fan of Squid, even though his real name was Sam. Twister, even though his real name was Maurice. Big fan of Reggie. Love Rocket Power. Number 2, and I just recently got Hulu, and they have Hey Arnold on there. So I've been rewatching a little bit of Hey Arnold.
Nice.
It's a good show, man. So I'd put that at number 2. Number 3, SpongeBob. Easy.
There
SpongeBob would be number 3, just because.
Old SpongeBob?
Old SpongeBob. SpongeBob.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Doodle Bob.
Yeah, there we
go. The Doodle Bob episodes. The early ones.
Love
Number
it.
4, probably Ed, Ed, and Eddie, just because of
Okay.
how wacky and outrageous that was.
Hmm.
And then number 5. Number 5, this is a tough one as far as cartoons go.
Hmm.
You know what? I don't even know if I was 10 when this one came out, but it was a movie first and then it turned into a show. But
Oh, I know where you're going.
you know what? I'd probably go Jimmy Neutron. If you
That's
know,
a good
is
one.
that where you thought I was going? Okay, because
Yeah.
Jimmy Neutron, the show, was actually not that bad,
Hmm.
but I liked, like Doug and Rocco's Modern Life
Hmm.
and anything older like that. But I'd probably go with that in my top 5.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I haven't asked that.
That's pretty good in there. Have you ever watched Jackie Chan Adventures? I thought maybe you might.
No,
Oh, dude,
no.
that's a
What's
good
that one?
show.
Yeah.
It's like a couple quotes in there, like the uncle. He always says wacky things like "I Jackie" and all that, and one more thing. But yeah, I don't know why I brought that up, but yeah, maybe we should move on. Yeah, but you mind telling us where you're from and can you describe what your life was like before college?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Fremont, in Fremont, California, over there in the South Bay, specifically Warm Springs. And anyone who has taken BART in the past like 2 or 3 years probably just learned where Warm Springs is because it's now like the final stop at the station. At
Uh,
first, it was just Fremont, then it turned
yep.
into Warm Springs.
Hmm.
And before college, man, it was just really growing up. It was just a regular sort of life, my life was sports. It
Hmm.
was legitimately every day being at, during the summer, being at the little league every day and playing baseball, doing whatever there. Then when wintertime came around, play basketball, play soccer. And then I got into football for a year or two. Wasn't very good. I mean, look at me. What I'm
It's
saying?
all
Like,
good.
not very good. And then yeah, man. I mean, that's kind of what it was like. In pre-college, it was it was kind of tame, and it was just kind of a regular old life for me, I guess. And
Hmm.
it was a great place to grow up, at least back then. And then ended up moving to Livermore after college because we just a bunch of other minutia that's not even worth talking about. But yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And you said you grew up playing sports and well, watching sports too. When you were
Of
little,
course.
what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, baseball player, easy,
Hmm.
easy. I there was a in when I was 9 years old. Um, man, I don't even know what was I 9? Was I 10? It was like in 5th grade, and there was like a paper we had to write like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then I said like I want to make $6 million like Miguel Tejada, and I don't
Nice.
know how I even like came up with that number. I think that's what the contract that he was being paid. Actually, I didn't even look that up. I think that was what his contract was worth at the time.
Yeah.
So it was just like I want to make $6 million like Miguel Tejada. So I had those aspirations until I was like probably like 14 or 15. And then I realized that there are other players who are just a step above
Yeah.
where I was at, and
Yeah.
I realized how hard it was probably to make it to pro sports at the time. So I kind of, reeled it back in and started actually looking at a real future instead of just like, playing
Y-
baseball.
Okay. And how'd you know college was the right path for you personally?
Probably because of my older brother. I got a brother who is 5 years older than I am, and he went to college, and we went to the same high school. Didn't go to the same junior high, but kind of followed in his path, and I knew that's kind of where I wanted to go. And he sort of set that path for me, and I kind of knew that that's what I probably needed to do in order to just get like a stable job. And then as I kind of got older, I realized like, oh, it's not, college isn't necessarily everything.
Hmm.
But I did know that it was something that I wanted to do. And, the grades I thought were good enough to do it. I thought, but then, stuff happened. And yeah, I did end up going to college though at the end.
Okay. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
goal. But
Right. Right.
how many have you been a part of so far? Just the one or
Just the one college.
yeah.
Yeah. I just went to Chico State for, made it under the average, 4.5 years. Graduated then. I think the average
Nice.
over there is like graduating in 5 years or something like that. But yeah, just only went to the one.
Okay. And can you recall a season of having to learn new skills or adapt to your environment to survive?
Uh, you know, I think like as far as college, like being in college
Pretty much, yeah, during that season. Like
during
you're
that time, I'd say it was more getting to know people who weren't from the Bay Area. I think that was the biggest thing because here in the Bay Area, it's so diverse and people just have a different mindset over here and you're kind of raised differently. And, when you meet people from all the way in, San Diego and Southern California, all the way up to like Redding or Wairika, all the way in Northern California, you kind of got a taste of just the types of people that are all over this place. It's not just the Bay Area. You're kind of in this little Bay Area bubble your entire life. Then you go to college and you realize, oh yeah, there's actually more places that people live, and so kind of I'd say as far as adapting to a new environment, that's the number one that comes to mind. Then just doing the whole living on your own thing, being on your own, being independent, having to go get your own meal, do your own laundry, all that sort of stuff. I'd say like that would be part of it too. But number one was just getting to know people outside of the Bay Area, no matter really where they're from.
Yeah, that's cool. You got any friends
Yeah,
you keep in contact with still from
yeah,
that? Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And the roommates I had, they were from all over. They were from Sacramento or Redding, and some moved to LA. Like I got, yeah, I still keep in touch with quite a few of them actually.
Nice. I think a good way
Yeah,
to look at it is you got a free couch to sleep on, and
right,
anywhere in
exactly,
the world.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I think we can't go any further without talking about where you work. You mind telling us what you do?
yeah. I am first a technical producer for the morning show on 95.7 The Game in San Francisco. It's a sports talk station, and I also host um, the pregame show from 5 to 6 in the morning. So if you're ever up that early and you turn it to 95.7, you'll hear my voice probably reading the text line or giving some sort of take on the basketball game from the night before. And then also, I actually just started this up, but got a new podcast going. It's a little Raider podcast. So just
Nice.
started that up last week, last Friday, and we're talking on the 23rd. I'm not sure when this one's gonna come out, but yeah, started that about a week ago, going into the NFL season.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And I know
yeah,
you talked about the text line before.
yeah.
How do
It's a
you
love
not
hate relationship.
Yeah. How do you not take any of that stuff personally if anything, weird comes
Oh,
through?
dude, it took a while to kind of get used to that. And I'm still like I've been hosting for I mean, I've been hosting solo for about a year and a half on that show, and there were some things in the beginning that kind of like now I don't get bothered by it so much, but there were some things in the beginning like like I'll take jokes. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I'm good if the text is like an insult, but it's clever.
Yeah.
Like I'm totally fine with that because
Hmm.
that either probably means you're half joking
Hmm.
or you're just funny, and I got to appreciate that. But then like when someone, I remember there's one that got me like just heated, and it was like one that kind of questioned my work ethic and
What
like
the
yeah, like went deep into it. Like said,
Whoa.
you don't sound like you prepare at all, like blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, I'm up till like 10:30 watching these games so I could wake up early in the morning just so I
Wow.
know what we're actually doing here.
Hmm.
And I remember that one. That was early on. That was like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that one I remember like kind of drove me a little bit. It's like, well, all right, I'm gonna make sure I work as hard as I can to not get that sort of text again.
Hmm.
And then but now I don't really take it personally anymore. You kind of get used to it after a while, and then, you go back to that old saying of, if you don't have haters, then you're not doing something right, or
Yeah.
whatever that saying is. I didn't necessarily believe that at first until I had like some people just randomly texting me at 5 a.m. telling me I suck. Which is
Yeah. It's like, wow.
it's like, thank you. All right, whatever,
Yeah.
fine. At least thank you for listening. Thank you for being up this early, But, it took a little while, but, you don't really take it personally anymore.
Yeah. And your show's been through a couple of transitions. You were co-hosting it with Anna. I can't say her last name, but
Kagarakis, yeah.
yeah. And then back to being solo. How has that been, that whole transition?
Well, so I did my first few shows solo. So how it worked is, originally you hear him now on Damon Rado and Kolsky from 2 to 6. But Matt Kolsky was the host for the pregame show, and I was the producer, and me and him would kind of have it back and forth. And then I think he went on paternity leave or whatever it was, because he was having his son. And so he was going to be gone for a little bit of time, and they needed a fill-in host, and having one at 5 a.m. isn't exactly the easiest to find. And there was one week where they just said, "Do you want to do it?" And I said, "Yeah, for sure."
Yeah.
And then I did it for like a week, and it was solo, and I stunk. It was just, it was just getting my bearings. I'd done a little bit of solo radio stuff at college, and I had a sports talk show, and I did that for a little bit, but I never really knew how good I was because no one was really listening. I had 5 listeners when I was in college. It was my mom, my dad, my aunt, my cousin, and my brother at times. So those are the only listeners I had, and that was the only solo show I ever did. And so I did that the first week, and it was there were times where I just like, oh man, where I froze and just almost had nothing else to talk about. I was like, this is I'm at a standstill here. I got 10 minutes left. It's like, what else do I do? And then you look at your notes and you realize, oh yeah, I got this other stuff to talk about. It's okay. And you'll get through it. And then bringing Anna on was, it was kind of like a relief, because it's like, finally, I can actually have someone to bounce stuff off of. I wasn't looking so much at the text line at the beginning because, it's just like nothing but, who is this kid that you're putting on here? What is this amateur stuff at 5 a.m? And then when Anna came on, it was just fun because Anna and I were friends beforehand anyway. And, because we've been working on the morning show together. And so it was kind of just natural as far as like the, just talking back and forth. So it made it a little better. And then when she was gone and I transferred solo, Dibs from the morning show with Kozlo and Dibs, who I've been working with, for a very long time. He said that, and this really stuck with me, but he said like, the time I knew that I like was making a change was when he said, you're no longer like letting the radio time eat you. You're eating up the radio time. Like you are giving your thoughts into the mic for the entire hour. You're not letting it kind of consume you, and you're just worried about it and kind of just you kind of just talking nonsense just to fill up time. No, you're actually like legitimately attacking the hour. And that's when I kind of knew I was making a change. And it took a little while, but it's like with anything in life, dude. It's just, it's reps. It's just constant. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it probably with the first time doing the podcast, right? I mean, is this your first podcast that you're doing?
Yeah, but it's only been going for a couple of months.
Yeah. And I'm sure like when you first got started compared to where you're at now, I'm sure it's just completely different. I'm sure like you're just way more comfortable. You're used to certain things that you might not have thought about at the beginning. So it's like with anything, you just reps and you keep on learning different things, learn different angles to take with sports stuff and what people like hearing. You learn all of that, and I'm still learning. I'm nowhere near where I want to be as a radio host. So still learning and still kind of getting into the swing of things. But can tell you it's a hell of a lot better than when I first started. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. It's great to see your growth too, because I've been listening to the show since 2018, so seen a lot of changes.
That's crazy.
A
That's
lot
insane.
happens.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. You know,
Yeah.
just you don't really when you're on the air and you're just talking on yourself to yourself. You know, you got the text line. You get a few callers here and there, but really you're not thinking like, oh yeah, there's actually some people out there listening right now. And
Exactly.
then you know, it's like, you know, even though it's at 5 a.m, people still got to go to work,
Hmm.
and people are still on the streets, even though it's 5, 6 in the morning. You know, I'm not always. I'm still getting used to that, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. And you mind telling us, how did you get your foot in the door in working in that industry?
You know what? This is something that's, and I get asked this, you know, quite a bit, and it's really not that glamorous. I was, so I was just told, hey, there's an internship open at 95.7 The Game. Have you heard of the station? I was just like, yeah, I've heard of the station. I haven't really listened to it all that much. To be honest with you, sports radio, I didn't really listen to a whole ton. I would listen to a lot of, like when I was growing up, I'd listen to a lot of like 107.7 The Bone, or like Z95.7 before 90. So 95.7 was 95.7 The Wolf beforehand, a country station. And
What?
before that, and yeah, and then before that, it was Z95.7, which I think was a top 40. I just remember listening to Smash Mouth on that station. Anyway,
Wow.
and like Beck, but yeah, I just kind of was told, hey, you should apply for this job, and you know, they got internships open, and yeah, I just applied, and put my name in there, and then a few days later, I got a call saying, hey, they want you in for an interview. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of really how I got the foot in the door, was just straight up go online and apply. I was just laying in bed, you know, and someone messages me on Facebook saying, hey, I think this job would be really cool. It just popped up, and I just really applied, and I kind of just got the foot in the door. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool. And
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's nothing glamorous. It's, you know, you meet people along the way, but really, if you want to, you know, if you want to get into something that you love, which for me, I loved sports, it's like you can really just possibly go online and just apply for the job and send in a regular application, and then they'll accept you from there.
yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And what experiences and knowledge have really helped you in the job that you're at today in ways that you didn't see coming?
Oh man, well, to be honest with you, I've been learning about it as I've gone on. Like it really, you can't really learn too much about the inner workings of the radio industry from school. You can't. There's not really many books that give you lessons on how to do that. You know, school, radio broadcasting isn't a major. My major was media arts, so that had to do with like a lot of film sort of stuff, broadcasting, news, all that sort of stuff. But it wasn't really, there wasn't so much just straight up radio. And you know, you could work and do your internship credit at a radio station at school, which I did. So I kind of learned a little bit from there. But ultimately, I'd say that just being an intern overall, it kind of gave me the introduction as to what I want to do. So I don't even know if I'm answering your question, but like, but I'd say just working within the industry has taught me more than I was really previously prepared for. I didn't know what I was prepared for, and then you just get into it, and then you just start learning as you go, and then, you know, however many years, it's what, 2020. I started there in like 2012, 2013, and then you just find out that, you know, you've learned a ton in those 7 years without even really realizing it. Kind of subliminal.
Yeah. And has being on both sides of the board, will you say you do the soundboard and all that? And
Yeah,
then,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And
So I'm
then,
the board operator for the
mhm,
morning show, and that's really, as far as people who want to get into the radio industry, the board is like the basis of everything. It's really what controls the airwaves. You know, whatever goes over the air, it is ran specifically through that board. Yeah.
yeah. And how has that knowledge helped you being on both sides, being the host and also on the board helped you?
Well, Oh, because you just understand everything that's going on, and really, it's like you know what questions to ask your producer if you're working with one, and also it's a big help whenever you're working. So for me, like I'm just getting started as a host. So normally you're going to be working with producers who are just getting started as well. And you know which questions to ask, you can speak from their point of view, and it's a huge help. And I'm not really sure what the future of my radio career is. I don't know if I'm going to be ever moving on. Like I don't know what the future holds, but I know that the knowledge of at least the board, it could help me throughout any radio station in the nation, depending on if I want to leave and where I want to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And have you ever had to save the day in a sense? Like you had to run to the board to fix something or run to the mic to all of a sudden become the host last minute in any
You have
situation?
you have those moments. I can't really pinpoint you a specific one. But there are so many times where something might go over the air that's not supposed to go over the air, or something where there's dead air. Like, why do we have dead air right now? I need to fix this. And yeah, I've had a couple of those moments where I'm just like, where all of a sudden you're the only one there sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just, you kind of got to go back and run to the board, and just, it sometimes can be a simple button switch.
Mm-hmm.
But the way you learn that sort of stuff, though, is just, again, the reps and making mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes. Like that's just life. And so, you learn from them. You observe other mistakes that people make. Like I'd say that's one thing in radio. When you're interning, I'd say that observing the mistakes that some of these other guys make is something that you need to pay attention to, so you don't make that same mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, and there's been a few times in here and there where I've kind of had to, put out a fire, so to speak. I guess.
And yeah, that makes sense. And I'm sure that keeps you humble for sure. Like,
dude, it can, I mean, now I'm a little more calm about it, but at first your heart drops because it's just so important to you, and you care so much, and you don't want to look bad in front of other people. You don't want to look bad in front of your bosses, and something like a mistake happens or something goes wrong and you have dead air. All of a sudden your heart kind of sinks a little bit. It's like, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this happening? Why isn't this happening? And you kind of, you worry a little too much, and you kind of got to take a deep breath or whatever. But at first it was really scary, and now I'm way more calm about it since I've had that experience, for sure.
That's awesome. And now the important question, what's up with the hate it or love it instrumental?
Wait, which one? Why? Where? What?
The hate it or love it instrumental. I hear it like every day. Yeah. Is that like your favorite instrumental to play?
It's just so, it works so well.
Exactly.
For everything. It's just like, hate it or love it. It's like, it's perfect. And I don't know why I play it so often. And like the final moments of the show, we have our 2-minute warning or whatever it's called for the morning show with Kozlo and Dibbs, or whatever it's called. It's called the 2-minute warning. And I just like playing Hate It or Love It at the end because it feels right. It's such a good.
It's very calm.
Yeah, but also it's got like the horns in the background, and then like it just makes for such good background music. And I try and keep it consistent. And then sometimes I play it without even realizing I'm playing. It's like, oh yeah, I'm playing that again on the pregame show. And I have a segment I do every Monday, and it's like brand new on the during the NFL season. And it's called "You Love to See It," where things. I mean, last week sucked for the NFL because a ton of guys got injured, and you never want to see that. But there are certain plays and certain storylines to follow, where you love to see it. And then I just figured Hate It or Love It is just too perfect because it's Hate It or Love It. And it's one of the great songs of all time from one of the great albums of all time.
Yeah.
And, so it's like, it's perfect. It's perfect. I love Hate It or Love It.
Yeah, for sure. And I was just
Trust
joking
me,
with
trust
you
me.
there.
I got some variety. Don't worry. But you're right. I do
Yeah.
play that a lot. You're probably going to hear it a lot less now. I'm going to be
No,
more
it's
conscientious. I'm going to be way more conscientious about it.
no, it wasn't a complaint. It's just like, yeah, I know what you mean. There's songs that work in like every setting, like you hear or you see a movie trailer and you're like, oh, they're playing that song again just because it
Yeah.
works, you know, but
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
deny
I
it.
mean, it's like that you've heard that song in Inception like a billion times into a trailer, just
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, you've heard that a billion times in every other trailer for sure. I guess it's
Yeah,
like that. I didn't really think about that. That's funny.
yeah. And yeah, I love the show. Just say it's all good. But
Yeah, yeah.
I promise you some sports questions. This is all I got for the audience out
No, it's
there.
all good. It's
I
all good.
Yeah, I love playing sports, but I just never was much of a watcher, more of the highlights. So,
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
yeah,
But
yeah.
so like the Bay Area sports teams, they've won like a ton of championships and like played in the finals in the last 10 years. Do you feel like
Mm-hmm.
as a Bay Area fan who's so used to like winning it all or getting close to it, do you believe that sets your expectations realistically?
It gets you cocky, and
Mhm.
it also, um, it's funny because I hadn't really seen one growing up until the Giants won that first one back in 2010.
Mhm.
Leading up to that, leading up till I was, 16, 17 years old, I'd seen the We Believe Warriors. I'd seen I'd seen the A's make the playoffs a ton of times. Excuse me, my dogs are barking. I'd seen the playoffs for the A's a ton. I'd seen the Giants go to the World Series but lose in 2002. So you'd seen them come close, but not exactly make it there. And it really does give you um, an appreciation for the other teams that end up making that championship, because
Mhm.
the way that the Warriors won it, you could say all you want about, oh, they added Kevin Durant that second year, so obviously they were going to get two championships, but it doesn't matter the star power that you have on a team. Like, getting to a championship and winning a championship is incredibly hard. And I was so jealous growing up as a Raider fan of the Patriots, because they would just win every single
Mhm.
freaking year. And
Yeah.
I'd get angrier and angrier at it. But then as the Warriors dynasty came around, you had the Giants winning every year that a Taylor Swift album came out, by the way. This year, another Taylor Swift album came out. They might make the playoffs when they're not supposed to. I don't
Right.
know if that's a coincidence or not, but there's something there. Um, but it definitely gives you appreciation for other teams. And, I, I never go into a season anymore thinking, oh, yeah, this team is going to win a championship. Like, I just don't go into it like that anymore. It's way more than just being a good team. There's a lot of other stuff that goes along with it, like luck. There's a lot of luck that
Mhm.
goes into winning a championship, because things just have to fall your way in order to do that. Steve Nash had like a comment, and I agree with half of it. He said in like the last 2 years, the Rockets almost beating the Warriors is almost, if not better, than the Warriors winning the championships, which isn't true. But he said after that if you put it into context, things have to fall into place in order to win those championships, which is absolutely true. And
Yeah.
so it's given me an appreciation for sure. I don't know if it's given me more just like realistic expectations, but it's just given me an appreciation for sure.
Yeah. And a follow up to that, what Bay Area sports team do you believe is going to be handed, the victory baton in a sense from
Yeah,
the 2017 and 2018 Warriors? Who's the next one?
man, I would have told you. I mean, to be honest with you, I was really hoping the Sharks were going to win a Stanley Cup. I like the Sharks too, and I think if they win that Stanley Cup one day, I would have wanted that. But they're just without Pavelski and all that, they're just getting older. The Giants are still 2 or 3 years away from winning one. I don't know if that. I mean, at least, and that's actually just being a contending team. That's not even just winning a championship. Um, if I had to pick one, I mean, I'd say I'd say the Niners have to be the closest. I'd have to put them there because even though, you know, even though they don't look, they're pretty banged up this year, and it's not looking like they're Super Bowl bound like last year. I think that they have the biggest chance. But then second to that, I'd have to put the Warriors. Like this upcoming year is about to be completely different. It's, you know, you didn't have Steph and Clay the entire time, who are just the backbone of that team. You're gonna be getting them back. I don't know what they're gonna do with their draft pick. That just remains to be seen. We can speculate. The whole Giannis Antetokounmpo thing to the Warriors, that's not going to be happening. He's staying in Milwaukee. He's a home guy, so I don't know if they're going to be keeping that draft pick. I don't know if they're going to be trading it away. I mean, but by the looks of it, it looks like it's going to be Steph. Looks like it's going to be Clay and Draymond, who's one of my favorite players. I just freaking love that guy. And then it's going to be that draft pick. It's going to be Andrew Wiggins. I think that the Warriors also have a chance. And I'm not saying that they're instant finals contenders just because those guys are back, but it definitely, I think it puts them a step above some of the teams in the West. So I'd say probably the 49ers at number 1, and then the Warriors at number 2. And I wish we could still be talking about the Raiders. I don't know if but we can't count them as a Bay Area team anymore since they're in Vegas. So those would be my top 2. And then the Giants. You know what, though? I totally forgot. How did I forget the A's? I completely forgot the A's. You know what? I think the A's have a pretty damn good chance this year of winning. So I'd put. You know what? I'm retracting. I'm putting the A's. I totally forgot. I'm putting the A's at the top. I'm putting the Niners second, and the Warriors third, and then the Giants fourth. Don't quote me on that. I got to do a little more research, do a little more thinking about it. You put me on the spot with that one.
Just imagine I'm playing the backup truck noise right there.
Yeah. There you go. The truck reverse. Love that. Love that.
But, cool. So the theme of this season, I said before, is ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Who would you say have been some extraordinary influencers in your life personally?
Just my family. My brother was a big part of it. He's kind of just, you know, he's given me anything that happens, like just in my life personally. He's always kind of calmed me down because he's been there before, and he'd been there 5 years ago. So it's still kind of fresh in his head, and it's not like his way of thinking is out of date. So I'd say him, my cousin, my whole family's over in England, and, you know, my cousin, he's kind of taken the route of trying to, you know, not necessarily get a desk job, but kind of follow his passion, which is music. So I'd say my cousin's there. My dad's just done an incredible amount in his life as far as his career. I mean, and you know, it's just pretty much my family. And then everyone that I've worked at the station has been just so helpful. And that's the thing, is like, I'd say if I had to give like a kind of word of advice, if I had to redo my internship over, you know, I'd say it would be to not be scared to talk to like the bigger people. And I'm talking about like the hosts of the station. I'm talking about like the program director. I didn't even say hi to the program director. Like when I was an intern, he never introduced himself to me. You got to like be the one to initiate like all of that, you know? Yeah. And that's really like, that's kind of the whole thing with me in the radio. If I had to give like advice to anyone who wants to work in the radio industry, one is be patient. Like you got to have patience. I got very lucky when I first got into it, when I was an intern. There was so much turnover. You know, I was working with one producer, working with a certain boss, and I figured, oh, these are going to be the guys that I'm going to be coming up with. Then I come back, I go to college, then I come back for another internship, and then it's just like there are multiple new people, like no one that I even recognize. And so I'd say being patient is one, keeping your name out there, annoying the higher ups, telling them that you want, like being present and telling them that you, showing them that you want to work. Like that's why I'm called Nice Guy Steven, is because I just had, like, you always got to say yes. Nice. If people ask you to do this, just say yes. You know, you want to fill a shift, oh, you have plans with your friends, you might need to sacrifice that for a night
Mm.
just so they know that you're committed. Like they love that.
Yeah.
And at least in the radio industry, I'm sure it's like that in other places as well.
Yeah.
And I actually, yeah, I have a little funny story. So it's like when I was at college and I was trying to get my internship back, I
Mhm.
didn't know whether to apply online again or not. Like I didn't know what to do. And I just figured I'll text the guy that hired me and I'll see if I can get a job there. So I was texting him like once every 2 days for like a week. I didn't get any response.
Yeah.
And then one day he texted me back and he just goes, "Stop texting me. It is annoying." And then he goes, "I will let you know if there's a job available." And then
Yeah.
like, time's ticking. I want to know.
Mhm.
And and then eventually, and I was kind of nervous. I was like, "Oh my God, is my time in radio over?
Mhm.
Did I ruin it?" And so I go back from college, I go home. He tells me that there's an opening, come into the office on this specific day.
Mhm.
And I'm taking Bart up to work, up to San Francisco. And I text him as I'm on my way up there. And I'm like, "Hey, so how am I going to get into the building? I don't have a key card right now. Like who should I contact? Who's going to be the producer that I'm working with?" And he just goes, and this was like 2 weeks after he told me that they're bringing me back on. He goes, "I'm not there anymore." And I was just like, "Huh?"
Oh,
Ooh. So I had like no way of communicating with anyone because the turnover was just
that's
so
crazy.
quick. It was like I just there were all these new people and I'm just like, well, I was here before you, like,
Mhm.
but I'm kind of the newbie still. So it kind of felt like every time I come back, I was the newer guy. But yeah, if I had to give like sorry to kind of ramble, but if I had to like, give any sort of advice, it'd just be patient, kind of say yes to everything, and also like tell them what you want to do. I mean, maybe not right. Like for me, right, not right away. I didn't say I wanted to be a host right away. I just said that I wanted to work here and that I wanted to try and learn about the business, and that was pretty much good enough for them at the time. And then eventually, I kind of said, "Hey, I'm pretty interested in being on air, and I think I could do it." And you got to have conviction. You can't not be confident. You can't be like, "Oh yeah, I think maybe I could take this." It's like,
Mhm.
no, you make sure you have the sense of, you can't have this false, even if it's a false sense of confidence, just tell them like, "Hey, yeah, I could do this." Like they don't
Mhm.
want people who don't have the confidence in themselves. So I'd say like that's kind of the lessons that I teach anyone that goes in the industry for sure.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah,
that. And
of course.
I just want to bring up, I guess, the former host who was on your show, Joe Fortenbaugh. I really admire his work. So
Yeah.
this question is more on going for excellence instead of settling for the status quo. Like I remember he always threw all these like special events like the agony of defeat and then the Chase Center
Mm.
thing with um,
Yeah.
Lorenzo and Dibbs. But how
Yes.
do you try to do that in like what you do to always strive for excellence and not just be a regular radio host?
I mean, just put in like just for me, I think about the regular stuff that's going to be talked about in the day. Like you're given breaking news just constantly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so easy just to have those um just to have those kind of shows where it's like, "Oh, I'm just going to talk about the breaking news for it." And if you listen before, there are some of those shows where I have it because the breaking news is just so big that
Mm-hmm.
it's people, excuse me, it's what people want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'd say um, putting the extra time in and really trying to think like outside of the box and creatively and try not to duplicate anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, like for me the most important thing is like, I do want to do a show that the people want to hear, and I do have content that I think that the listeners would want to hear. But also if there's like something that pops up that you feel like you have a lot of knowledge about and you want to bring that up, then do it. Like for example, me, earlier this year, one of my more off-beaten topics was when Angels in the Outfield was airing on ESPN, and that's one of my like childhood movies. Like that's in the VHS. Like exactly. And and I used to watch that all the time. And I remember like thinking, in my head, like, I'm gonna turn the channel over to this every single time. And it's just like, what childhood sports movie do you want ESPN to air? And it's kind of like a way to bring the listeners into your life, and they kind of understand who you are, as opposed to just giving your sports takes. So, it's more for me, just like creating content that, the listeners do want to hear, but also if you have something that you have a lot of knowledge about and you feel like people would want to also engage in that, then yeah, I mean, I'd say that's the way to strive for it. And just showing up, it's like such a big part of having just your job, the radio thing. It's my priority. It's like my number, like, every moment, like whether it's just watching a sport, I'm thinking about like how I can make this into something on the radio show. Like last night, for the Bulls, Zach LaVine, he found out about his head coach when he was live on, it wasn't Twitch. I forgot what program he was on, but he was playing Warzone, and then he finds out about his head coach, and there's this sound, or there's this reaction of him. And I figured, that's going to make some pretty funny sound on the show, instead of just like, oh yeah, I saw Zach LaVine, blah, blah, blah. Like it's always kind of trying to think of ways and angles of stuff you see in real life, and you just come across that you can possibly use on the show. So that's kind of it for me. Yeah. Cool. And Joe's work ethic is unbelievable. Working with him for the past few years, so happy with what he's doing over at ESPN now. And I mean, his work ethic is unbelievable. It's one that, I'd hope to match, but that dude works real hard.
Yeah.
Real hard. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. I don't want to keep you on too long, but I just had 2 more questions for you.
Of course.
So what's been the biggest surprise of adulthood so far?
Well, the cost of stuff. like just having to be an actual adult. Like, I don't know, like right here on my Zoom link, you're seeing Vic Langford right now, and you're seeing me in his office. Like, I still live with the parents. Like, as much as a fun job radio is, it's not exactly the most high paying job. That's why, I mean, if it was a high paying job, then everyone would want to be a part of it. But, some people just don't have that flexibility to not have to finances or whatever. But for me, I just think it's, like I got a taste of reality, when I was in college, and it taught you a little bit about that stuff, but I wasn't doing that all on my own. I had like loans, I had stuff from parents and all that. And I was very fortunate to have all of that. But then after that, it's like, well, you're on your own. And now I'm just, I probably am going to move out soon, but like, the reality is it's, you got to make decisions that, maybe you don't want to make, but also it's smarter for the future. And, I mean, shoot, living at home isn't the worst thing anyway,
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I'd say that. And I'd also say, what's a weird one is, and I've kind of thought about this, is when I was like 18, 19 years old, I figured at like 27, I'd be like a full-fledged, like just mature, like adult who, you have this certain, you have this, what's the word that I'm looking for? You have this certain preconceived notion that like of what an adult is. And really it's just, you don't feel like, I'm 27 and, I'm working my way up, and, I'm getting smarter and learning a lot of new things, but also I still feel like that kid who's like 18, 19 years old, except just making a lot less dumb decisions and being a little smarter about it. But I still feel like the same type of person that I was back when I was, that age. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you feel
Makes
that?
sense.
You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
talked about cartoons earlier. I still feel like that kid who was
Yeah.
watching cartoons like back. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just it's not been like a crazy like this crazy transformation that you think adulthood is going to be. You still feel like yourself,
Yeah.
and who you are. It's odd, you
Yeah.
know.
It's true.
When you get to like you're in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, I'm sure. I don't know if it's going to still be the same, but like it's just I feel I'm an adult and I'm 27 years old, but also I still feel like that kid who was wondering what I'd be like as an adult. I'm still wondering that. I'm still waiting to grow up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it makes sense. Like
Yeah.
just 10 years ago, you were a minor, and just a couple more years before that, you're just turning into a teenager. So
Time moves so fast, and it's just like, you get to adulthood and turns out that, I have a lot of the same friends still. We still crack a lot of the same stupid jokes, but we just make a lot less dumb decisions. Like that's really what it comes down to. And, I have yet to do the whole start a family thing, get married and have kids. And I'm sure that's going to bring a whole new level to it.
yeah.
But right now where I'm at, like, I still feel like that, that kind of, that 20-year-old me who's like wondering what I was going to be like when I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's deep. That could, man, I'd have to pull a Joe Rogan if we really wanted to keep going on that one. But
Yeah.
yeah. But
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, pull up that whole, hang on real quick. Can you just pull up that video of the orangutan spear fishing? I need that. I need that right now. I don't know how we work that into the conversation, but we need that right now.
Yeah. Oh man, that's fun.
I like the way that Joe Rogan like looks at whatever Jamie's showing him. By the way, he like he kind of like is sitting there. He keeps his head up, and then when he really wants to look at something, he's like, he puts his head down.
Yeah.
Whoa. we could be doing that for another 4 hours.
Oh man, next time.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Cool. Thank you for joining so far. This is the last one I got for you. If there was one thing you could ask your future self, what would it be? And if there's one thing you could tell your high school self, what would it be?
Well, I can tell you easily, one thing I could tell about my high school self is don't worry.
Nice.
Just don't worry. It'll all be okay. Like life in a way like works itself out in strange ways. And I don't even know if I'd have to be telling myself that in high school. I'd say I'd almost have to be telling more of myself that in college, because in college, I just, like I didn't want to be in radio at first. Like I didn't think I'd be in radio at first. I thought I was going to be like an athletic trainer. I was getting into kinesiology and then my second year, the grades were so bad. And I'm just like, well, what am I gonna have to drop out? Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I guess like, I guess the number one thing would be don't worry. I mean, freaking Bob Marley said it the best. Don't you worry. Every little thing is going to be all right. Like there's a lot of truth in that. And then for myself, and you asked like what I'd tell myself or what I'd ask myself in the future.
Yeah. What would you ask your future self?
What would I ask my future self? Well, for one, are there driverless vehicles? I don't want that. That's beside the point. I can go off for 10 minutes on that. I would just ask my future self, if you're at a point now where you are satisfied, or do you want to keep going? Like, I think like with my job, there's a lot, and with a lot of jobs too. I mean, it's very hard just to reach a peak, like that's why I admire my dad so much. Cause with his job, like it really, with the field that he was in, it felt like he reached the pinnacle. As far as what he did with he had like a computer job when he came over here, and, he worked his way up. And so like, I'd say just, I'd ask like, are you satisfied? So I could remind my older self that, not to get complacent and to still keep on like looking for other things, just because, you're in your, whatever your 40s or your 50s doesn't mean it has to be like the last thing that you do, and especially in this job. And I'd also ask if radio's still around. I'm very curious. I'm very curious to know about that, because podcasting is kind of the way that everything is moving right now. I still think, personally, I still think radio is going to be around. People still like the simplicity of just going in your car and turning the radio on.
Yeah.
Like people still, I think that's still going to be around, at least for my lifetime. You know, and I really truly believe that. I don't know. I'm not much of a, you know, I'm not a guy who can go into the future and tell you, but it just feels all too simplistic just to get in your car and turn on the radio. It doesn't feel like that's going to go away for a while. So, I think I just asked myself, like, you know, I mean, are you satisfied? Are you happy, or do you want to keep going? I'd be very curious to find that out.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. But
I haven't even thought about that before.
Yeah, we're going deep today. So yeah. Awesome. Yeah. But dude, we made it. Yeah. Thank you for joining. It's pretty awesome.
Dude, I really appreciate you asking me to come on, man. That's all. I really think the idea is cool, and I'm still trying to get used to the fact that, you know, the job is that I'm in right now is a little bit out there. And I've been holding this pen the entire time as if I'm like,
I was wondering about that. I was like, oh shoot.
I'm like, I just got a pen in my hand. It feels comfortable. I like it. It's a nice pen. It's from a hotel somewhere. I don't know why, but it feels very official. Like you know, like we're doing like a betting podcast or something like that, where I got to write down a bunch of numbers. I haven't written anything down.
Pinkies up.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, I really appreciate you bringing me on, man. This is great.
Yeah, for sure. And just wanted to encourage you before you go, like, you're a good man, bro, and never discount what you have to say. And no matter the time or place, you're made to speak into people. I know we're talking before, like, the audience isn't always seen. You probably just see like how many viewers tune in, but you're speaking encouragement and just truth. And yeah, you're a great listen. So thanks for what you do.
I really appreciate that. Like, thank you so much, man. And keep on doing what you're doing here too. It's a great podcast. It's a great idea. And I'll be listening. I'll be looking forward to who else you have on. I'd be interested.
Yeah, for sure. Anything you want to promote before we go?
Well, you can listen to me. I've never promoted myself before because I haven't been on a podcast. So excuse me if I'm a little rusty. And I don't know if you've seen my Instagram videos before I go on for shows, but like, you know, I get told, hey, it's probably a good idea to, you know, get yourself on an Instagram story to let them know that, hey, you're on the air. But then like, I'm just really bad at doing like the live promotion thing.
Yeah.
But no, you can listen to me. You can listen to me Monday through Friday on 95.7 at 5 a.m., 5 to 6. I mean, I'm very interactive with a lot of the listeners, and I try to have as much fun as possible, bring as much energy as I can in the morning, and try to help you wake up a little bit. And you know, try and find you an alternative to just listening to music sometimes, because it really is that early. And then, and I also got a Raider podcast right now called Black Hole Sundays, and new episodes every Friday and Monday. You can look on Apple Podcasts. You can just search up the pregame show with Stephen Langford, and it'll pop up right there, and you'll find Black Hole Sundays. And you can have the radio.com app, which is what we use at 95.7. You can download that. And that's, I mean, you could find it. You could find it. And you can, of course, follow me at Nice Guy Steven. You can follow me on Instagram at Slangford2. Very interactive. Yeah. That's pretty much all I got, I think. Told you, I'm not great at promoting.
No, it's good. Like, it'll only get better. So no worries. But yeah. Once again, thanks for joining. Great catching up. Of course. And for everyone else, as we're maturing, we're going to keep learning, stirring up, and chasing after what our Creator created us to do. So have a good one, everyone. Peace.